Welcome back to Birds with Words. I'm your host, Sean Fitzgerald, the author of both Sinners Past and A Fool to Extinction. Today we have a guest author on with us. Michael, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and where my audience can find your work?
Yeah, so hey, Birds with Words. I'm Michael Parks. I'm a multi-genre Canadian author, and you can find me on most platforms, but the best place to go is obviously michaelparksauthor.com, where that's where everything is. Um, I have a blog where there's author interviews that go up every Monday and Friday, so if you're looking to find other authors, that's a great place to go. As well, there's Cheryl and Gnomes and Nights, which are my books. So Cheryl is tragic comedy slash suspense thriller type thing. Doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's still kind of dark at points. I believe a review video of that just went up on my YouTube, done by the book talker Carrie Reads Too Much. So that's a good resource to check out. There's also more info on that on my blog. As well, I'm on Facebook, Goodreads, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. So feel free to check me out. And yeah, I welcome anyone to follow me.
Perfect. And I'll include any links at the post-production of this. And today we have a really special moment because you and I had an early relationship where you shared one of your readings with us. And today, Michael is going to be providing his narration of his story. Michael, go ahead and take it off.
Yeah, so Portraits is a short story on Sean Fitzgerald's blog there. Bleakness, blackness. The old manor looming above him looked absolutely horrifying. As the hail rained down on him, he felt deep dread, a tightening around his heart, a heaviness in his stomach, and a dryness in his throat. Pure terror. Just looking at the once pristine gray stone stained black by the elements was enough to make the drifter feel queasy, let alone the stories about this place. Every fiber of his being was screaming at him to turn back, to the point he found it nearly impossible to convince his legs to move forward. The nearly pitch-black forest and absolute silence that permeated the area, save for the howl of the wind and the pounding of hail, did not at all help the situation. It was abundantly clear the animals and even the insects shied away from this place. The wind howled harshly once again, cutting right through his coats and freezing his skin beneath. Turn back, goddammit, turn back now. Of course, turning back meant probably dying. He was nearly 20 kilometers from the nearest town, and he was fairly certain all this hail was due to a hurricane. With no other choice, he moved forward, his own legs working against him as he forced them to go towards that terrible place. His eyes darted from broken window to broken window, expecting to see a headless apparition or cackling specter at any moment. In a way, the absence of anything in the windows made him even more terrified. He was certain they would ambush him, and the sight of their incorporeal form, coupled with the foul energy that clung to the manor as if it were ever a part of it, would surely stop his heart. The last thing he would ever see would be some horrible phantom or wailing banshee, and it would bind his soul to this place so he too would remain here among them, forever. A thundering lightning strike, close enough to light up everything around him and shake the ground, sent him running inside so quickly that the fear of the unknown was immediately replaced with the fear of imminent death. Panting and wide-eyed, he looked from the decrepit foyer into a ruined living room as he clutched his thumping heart. The dusty and lopsided portrait of a long-dead family glowered at him from above a ruined mantelpiece. Debris was strewn all over. A dirty and ragged couch was overturned as if thrown, and there were stains on the floor. At least the walls kept the wind out, and the sagging roof stopped the hail. What were those rumors again? What happened here? God forbid this place not have layers and layers of horror and tragedy about it. It was probably the work of the devil, is all I remember. Damn it, what did they say about this place? He was lost in his uncomforting thoughts as he stumbled right into the cracked banister of the grand staircase, catching himself awkwardly as it groaned under his weight. Snapping back to reality, he took in his surroundings in a state of confused terror. The mansion was even bigger on the inside than it appeared on the outside, and there were so many doorways leading off into darkness that it was difficult to count them all. The whole place felt like madness and terror embedded in the walls and floors, and he was really beginning to question if it would be safer to just brave the hurricane outside. The sound of a door slamming sent him whirling around, only to see a door had fallen from its frame and crashed to the ground. A slightly more distant strike of lightning offered some light, only to reveal dust and debris swirling lazily around where it landed as he breathed a sigh of relief. He continued on, entering a doorway at random. In the sudden surge of adrenaline from the door falling, he remembered his flashlight and flicked it on as he entered what appeared to be a dining room. A long, scratched table that would have once been beautiful was now covered in dust and cobwebs, hidden beneath a filthy and threadbare tablecloth. The candelabras held candles burnt down to their nubs, and the thought of something or someone actually using them regularly sent chills down his spine that radiated throughout his body. Nothing belongs here. Not the living, not the dead. Certainly not me. What were those rumors? Strangely, This room's doors were all intact, save for the one he entered through, but he had difficulty forcing them open. All of them were locked or jammed, and he wasn't about to break them down if it meant alerting any specters of his presence. If he hadn't seen them yet, he assumed they hadn't seen him either. And clinging to that irrational belief was the only thing saving him from running screaming into the hurricane. He turned to leave and made his way across the room back into the entryway. His flashlight offered some semblance of sanity in this place of madness, and its light gave him renewed courage to find somewhere to sleep in this horrific place. Somewhere upstairs, he thought he heard the groan of the floorboards, possibly near the stairs, and ducked into an alcove that may have once held a statue. He turned off his flashlight and was plunged into almost complete darkness. He stood completely still, too terrified to even breathe, and waited. Nothing. He peeked his head out, and still nothing. He breathed a sigh of relief, flicked on his flashlight, and illuminated a room full of the spectral dead. No, wait, not specters, just dusty curtains. But why did the night sky beyond them look different? He moved slowly from the alcove, still spooked, and pushed back one of the thick, dusty curtains to see a dark purple night sky. The stars shone dully, though they were green instead of yellow or white, and there were 3 moons instead of 1. There was no hail, no hurricane, though the forest was still there, now made up of sickly yellow pine trees instead of sturdy oaks. Not believing what he was seeing, the drifter bolted to the door only for it to be boarded up. No amount of frantic yanking on the handle did anything. It simply would not budge. What the hell's going on? I just came in through this door. A loud smash somewhere upstairs sent him scurrying into another one of the many doorways, this time into what looked like a gallery. Whirling around and panicking, with another smash upstairs to punctuate his terror, all he could see were walls of portraits and an old fireplace, though tall windows on one side of the room at least made it easy to see. The people within them all wore sad expressions, though they were all dressed differently. Some wore modern clothes, some wore Victorian dresses, and others wore tailcoats. The drifter calmed down slightly, taking in the room around him. The oil paintings were beautiful, all painted in exquisite detail and great precision. The fireplace was blackened but looked serviceable, with some brittle logs in a disordered pile nearby. He suddenly felt rather sleepy, and thought of sleeping in this room. The door he entered through was still there, and he turned the latch to lock it, which made him feel safe. The mansion must have been quite old, because there was even a wooden plank to bar the door, so he put that down too. No other way in or out of the room, so he was definitely safe now. His heartbeat slowed, he took deep breaths, and then he went to the window. Outside, there was hail with silent lightning strikes far in the distance. The oak trees were tall, with no sickly pines in sight, and the night sky was completely black, just like when he had come in. His mind must have been playing tricks on him. The room was fairly large, though empty, so he started a fire in the fireplace, which somehow didn't have any hail in it, though he just assumed it had wire mesh to prevent things from getting in. He undid the backpack that held his meager possessions, rolled out his sleeping bag, and settled onto the floor of the gallery. The paintings, now better illuminated by the fire, all still seemed to be staring at him with unimaginable sadness in their eyes, though he supposed all old paintings always had this subject looking dreadfully melancholic for some reason. He probably just felt watched because of the massive fright he'd given himself scurrying around the mansion. He drifted off to sleep, no sounds to disturb him, no specters to haunt him, and safe from the storm. Banging. Loud banging. The door he had locked and barred splintered loudly yet held fast. He sat up at a comfortable pace. He was clearly dreaming. He felt no fear, no sense of urgency. He was fine. Somehow, he could feel he had to enter a room behind one of the portraits. He got up in a trance-like state, his body not his own, as he walked over to a portrait whose frame nearly touched the floor. They whispered to him, though he didn't register what they said. He simply went with it. Must be a lucid dream. Don't open the door, the whisper said, a cacophony of voices, all overlapping and blearing together, becoming a chaotic echo. He went to the portrait. This time its eyes and mouth were definitely moving. The woman in the portrait was crying and her mouth was moving, but he paid no mind. He grabbed the edge of the frame and pulled, opening it like a door to reveal a small archway behind the painting. The banging became louder, the door broke inward, the whispers became shouts, but it was all irrelevant. He just had to walk through the archway. It was only a dream after all. The archway is, but the voice cut off as he entered the deep blackness in the arch. Just as the door gave way and shot forcefully off its hinges to slam loudly into the opposite wall. Whatever was trying to get in, if there was even anything there, didn't enter the room. The portraits were still, and the archway wasn't there. The portrait over it was back in its place. It was as if the drifter had never been in the room. But he had, and the portraits were all weeping, silently, without whispers, without sound. But what were once sad faces were now frozen in various states of weeping, as if they had been painted mid-sob. The drifter woke up well rested. The door wasn't barred anymore, but he was having such a vivid dream he must have opened it while sleepwalking or lucid dreaming. Whatever he had experienced, it was still dark in the gallery, and outside was still nighttime, though it seemed those 3 moons, green stars, and sickly pines were back. He must still be in the dream. At least the fire was still going. He moved to go towards the window, looking around for his sleeping bag, but he couldn't move. He tried to jerk himself forward, but his body wouldn't budge. Looking down, he didn't see a body at all. Terror gripped him, but he didn't know how because he couldn't feel his body. It was like he didn't have one. Panicking, yet unable to scream, terrified, yet unable to cry, he felt all hope slipping away. Why couldn't he move? Sometime later, he wasn't sure how long, a scruffy looking man ran into the gallery, barring the door, somehow intact again, behind himself. Panting and panicked, the newcomer looked out one of the windows, which morphed into a nice view of the oak forest and starless sky, before reverting to a dark purple sky, filled with green stars and 3 moons when he turned away. The drifter, resigned to his fate, looked at the man with sadness. The newcomer actually made eye contact with the drifter, though he didn't seem to see him. All he did was mutter something about how all the portraits looked so realistic, yet so sad. And yeah, it was a reading of portraits.
Wow. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to ask you a few questions about yourself, and then I'd really like to dive into portraits and how it was developed. So you mentioned your earlier writings, and obviously you're a published author. I know you mentioned one kind of has some dark themes. Historically, do you write horror all the time, or is this kind of the more horror-esque that you've written so far?
So Portraits and Eternity are both short horror stories, and those were more to practice / get a break from my main novel. So my third book is horror, like Cosmic Eldritch. Historically, no, horror is not a major factor. Cheryl does have some creepy dreams. I think one of them was cut out, but I know there's a few where like she'll have like a scary dream about her dead daughter. But again, Cheryl, it's more in her head type thing. It's clearly a dream. I feel it's not ambiguous, right? Like it's like she's having a dream or a hallucination or something, you know? So no, horror is kind of newer, but 2 short stories and then this novel, so it's becoming one of the genres I do.
Yeah. Well, I definitely picked up the cosmic horror themes that you put into to portraits. So then let's get into that. I know I've read some of your work previously. Obviously, not all my audience will have. Where did you derive the influences to write portraits?
I'm a huge fan of creepy abandoned houses, and there was one that was just especially off. So where I am, it's pretty rural. It's rural Ontario. There's abandoned houses everywhere, but none of them were quite creepy. When did I write Portraits? 2023 or something?
Without looking at the document in front of me, I feel like that's about right because it was shortly after I published A Full to Extinction, so that sounds about the right time frame.
July. Okay. So yeah, at that time, the house I was thinking of I hadn't been to. But yeah, so the house that I'm thinking of for Portraits was real creepy. It's kind of like on its own gravel road, but it's weird. All the other houses on that road are like super nice, you know, like cute country, but like a little bit like rich country. They're all nicely decorated, you know. All the old people wave when you drive by, you know, it's cute. And then there's just this house that is way out of it. It seems out of place. It's dilapidated. I mean, really dilapidated. Like in the summer, the overgrowth is so high it reaches the 2nd story. So it's really creepy on the inside because the windows are blacked out during the day. So it's like, ooh. It's the floor is covered in toys. It's creepy. Lego, really dusty Elmo dolls. It's weird. And it's infested with giant spiders. So anytime I've been there, whoever I'm with won't go in. Yeah, there's like a little shed thing, but the house itself, like it's creepy. Yeah, you go into this like tiny mudroom. It's basically a rectangle with like no width. So you enter through a doorway and then immediately through another doorway. So it's like oddly constructed. Then on the left, there's a stack of dirty mattresses blocking that doorway with no door. And there's like a little window cut out with no glass. And it's just blackness. Like you can't see anything over there, even in like the middle of the day. And then empty room, toys on the ground, spiders. And then you turn right, and it's actually kind of like in Portraits, is how this is described. There's an overturned couch. So it's like, why is that overturned? There's stairs downstairs. There's a jammed door and stairs downstairs, but like those stairs look like they'll collapse any second. There's a copy of Harry Potter on VHS, like the first one, on a mini fridge facing you, a trash kitchen. There's the front door that's inaccessible, and the 2 windows, right, that are blacked out. And that house is super creepy, and like it feels wrong in a way that the other ones didn't, right? Because like I got escorted to an abandoned house by a coworker once because she said like technically they still owned it because the owner died or something. So I don't know. Anyway, and that one had like, you know, walls collapsed, roof collapsed. It seems weird. It's like no one's lived here for like a decade. How's it this broken down?
Right.
But it's not creepy. It's just abandoned, you know? And same with the other ones around here, you know, it's just like, oh, an empty house, whatever. But yeah, this one, there's actually a recurring nightmare I got at this one, like this super creepy one. There was like a teddy bear or something because it's the toys. I don't understand why there's toys everywhere. That's what makes it so eerie. And you know, like everything's black. There's so many inaccessible doors. So it's like that kind of went into Portraits too. It's like, what's beyond that? Because there's no way to get through it, you know? If you go down those stairs, they'll collapse. I don't know what's beyond those mattresses, but they're gross. I'm not touching them. But yeah, there was like a teddy bear or like a doll or something. I think it was a teddy bear. And it was like nailed to or hung by its neck beside the archway of like the front door. I remember staring at it and just getting like kind of overwhelmed with like, I don't know, some feelings like run out of the house. I'm like, okay, so how'd I go? And I'm like, come on, person with me, we're out of here. So we drive off because again, no one would ever enter this place with me. And yeah, it was real creepy. I don't know what that was. Like you just stare at it, this feeling run out, and I got a recurring nightmare for like 3 days straight where this thing hopped off the wall. So every night, like it would pick up where it left off. This thing hopped off the wall, walked from that house to mine, and like it would walk all night. And then during the day, it would just flop over on the side of the road. And then like it would get up the next night, and it was so weird. And the dream only ended when it actually got to my driveway in the dream. It's like, what's that? So that place is so haunted.
Right. Yeah, what's your mind trying to tell you with that reoccurring dream?
Yeah.
So, you know, now I'm going to go on a tangent because we have to talk about this house. I wish I lived closer because I'm all about exploring weird places like that.
Oh, yeah, I love them.
So, just kind of painting the picture a little bit is I don't understand it's dilapidated, doesn't fit in with everything. Is there also signs that other people go and explore? Like, do you find taggings? Okay, so you might be the only person who's hanging out there, or there could be something worse going on. Got it.
There's nothing there. Like, nobody goes in there. There's no graffiti. There's like, yeah, because that's another thing. There's no graffiti in that house that the coworker showed me. Like it was tagged up, whatever, because it's like it's abandoned, but it's not scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, the super creepy one, no graffiti, like nothing.
So, are there unusual portraits in there, or is that just a pure fictional manifestation that you wrote for the story?
That was creative license, but actually, I was about to say that too. There's a weird painting. I've posted it online before, actually. It looks like it kind of looks like a baby, with one leg out and 2 arms up type thing. But it looks like there's a face coming like from behind it, and it's like the whole painting's like splashed with color, like it's colorful. The canvas is warped. This is just beside the front door. I don't know if it's still there because I thought it was taken like 5, 6, like a really long time ago, years. But yeah, there was like this really cool looking, weirdly out of place painting because it's outside. How is it in such good condition? Strange. Yeah, so there were paintings there, but no, Portraits was more creative license. Okay. I love creepy houses.
Yeah. You know, there was a neighborhood here that they had these plans for a really large development, and they'd cut out sections. And when you drive down these roads, they still have the cutouts in the road where they were going to build the roads out. and they built the neighborhoods, and people started buying the houses, and then a combination of the market and then COVID just killed it, and everybody moved out. And for 2 years, this neighborhood just became completely overgrown. It was something like out of an apocalypse movie, because you'd go into like fully built houses, and then like vines and things are just coming out of the floors. And they had this little pond, like that was supposed to be a retention pond, built in the back, and it's filled with alligators now.
Oh,
And it was a very unusual experience. I also posted a couple pictures because I found this like really creepy wooden rocking horse that was just hanging out in this dilapidated building that was falling apart. And then you walked out the back, and it's just full of vines, spiders, and alligators. And fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, they bulldozed that entire area since it got to the point where unruly people were exploring the area. But I feel like it's very interesting to explore these unusual areas. And I have to ask them, do you ever plan on expanding, coming back to portraits, including it in a greater series of works?
I had considered putting portraits and also eternity into like a collection of short horror stories if that ever happens. Because I only have 2.5 books, but like 2 published. That it's kind of like I seem to do novels, short story collection, novel, So yeah, I was thinking maybe including it in a larger body, but also it's kind of like if they're guest posts, maybe they're just good where they are. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you ever plan on maybe writing another visitor coming and visiting that house?
Problem with that house is it's so creepy. I can't get people to go with me. But
There's so much inspiration though.
I'd pay another visit. Yeah, because that one it stands out as singularly creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is good inspiration, especially since The Haunting of Hill House. That was a Netflix series, but it's based on a book, and I audiobooked the book, and I was like, oh, this is like exactly what the type of thing I like.
Yeah.
It's really awesome, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I love a good creepy house or kind of ambiguous creepy house too. Yeah. Haunting of Hill House does that great. It's like, is Nell insane? Is the house haunted? Is she psychic? I love that ambiguity to it. Yeah.
So for the real house that you base the story off of, have you ever looked up online to try to find any stories or history to that property?
Don't think I have. Definitely should though.
Yeah, I don't know how strict Canada's privacy laws are, but here in the U.S., if you look up a property, you can see histories of the property, but you can't necessarily see very deep into things. So you can see like if it was foreclosed on, who bought and sold it, what time period. But beyond that, it's very difficult unless you have some better research skills or you have some names, which a lot of sites don't provide anymore. I would love to find out a little bit behind that, because exactly to your point, why are there so many baby kids, or I don't want to say baby, but toys in the area? That'd be an interesting side to it. So next portion that I have to ask about, when you came to writing the fictional side, when you wrote it, was it solely because you and I had that relationship and you wanted to guest post, or did you have an idea that was formulating to become portraits beforehand, something that you were outlining as you were doing other work?
No, portraits just kind of made up on the spot for that guest post.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it worked out perfect. I mean, it goes right in with the horror side of it. I'll say that from my side, I don't want to call yours paranormal, but that's probably the best term I could find for it, where it's not truly the reality side of it. And I had to go through a pretty big learning curve when I did Sinner's Pass, which is more paranormal side of it, and getting away from just body horror, which is primarily what I focus on. So do you see yourself doing more of that type of horror, or do you ground it in anything beyond just your experience with abandoned properties?
Portraits is really the only one based on abandoned properties. Although the same general vibe as portraits, for my horror, it tends to be eldritch, cosmic, and something about like kind of like internal entrapment. I do find that tends to be a theme. Um, yeah, like definitely internal entrapment, but not so much houses. It doesn't really focus on houses usually. I think a creepy house makes an appearance in in the book I'm writing, but like just an appearance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you're on your personal side when it comes to exploring abandoned areas? Is it you just like abandoned houses, or you find like abandoned shopping malls and get in there?
Um, abandoned shopping malls are super common right now.
Yeah, and they're
um,
becoming more common, right?
Never found one though. There's like one tiny mall in town that's been taken over, I think, by some French holding company. So it's been turned out from like a like an inside mall to like an outside mall.
Yeah,
So I don't know what they're doing with all that inside space, but I don't know. It's like a large strip mall now. It used to have an inside, doesn't now. No, mostly abandoned places are like secluded, so like nature or abandoned houses are kind of like easy to spot.
yeah,
There are some other places, like just like a secluded waterfall nearby, or tends to be secluded places, or there are some like old, like hidden graveyards,
yeah,
but those are hard to find, of course, because like you chance upon them in like the woods or something, and it's like, oh, this is like small and cool, and then you forget where it is because it's so well hidden.
yeah.
Because I've found one or two of those like years ago, and I was like, I would not know where to look. Ooh, actually, speaking of creepy abandoned houses that I then lose, there was one where I can't remember where it was. I could never find it again, and that kind of makes it creepier. Um, I'm driving along in some country area, I don't know, and there's like here, at least in the country, there'll be like a blue tag on like a post, and it's like a number. So it had that at a driveway with like a fallen tree over it, and the rest was ditch. So it's like, okay. And then there's like a dilapidated, like mostly caved in house. It's like a back wall and not much else. And I was like, ooh. So I park and get out. I just remember getting a creepy feeling, be like, mm-hmm. So I just turned around and left. Because again, that's like the only other time I got weirded out by one of these places.
Yeah.
I think I made it like halfway up the what counted as a driveway. It was basically like a field, and then I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't do a lot of exploring of abandoned places. I did more when I was a kid, probably more just because I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing. But I'll definitely say from I follow Reddit posters and various social media influencers where they do this and they explore these locations. And one of the big things they always say is if you see a sign that somebody else is actively going there, just stay away from it. And then if you ever feel like there's a reason to leave, your body's just saying, they say that's usually a really good sign you need to leave. I think
yeah.
you probably did the right thing getting out of there. Let me ask then, because not quite paranormal, but I don't have a better genre to group this with. Have you ever had a paranormal experience while doing this?
Um, in the abandoned houses specifically,
Anything, honestly.
the biggest one that stands out is definitely that creepy dream. That was really weird. um, yeah, there's the creepy dream. There's that one I could never find again, where I just got a bad feeling before I even entered it and left. And the third one is so all the other houses were less creepy. I could actually convince the people with me to go in. So there was one where it's like it was just a gutted house. Like there was nothing in there. It's just rooms and empty windows and a barn with like a weirdly modern looking like combine harvester. It was a huge machine. Um, so there's like a dilapidated barn and like just a giant some sort of farm equipment, but I didn't see any fields nearby. So I'm like, how old is this place? And um, it's just a square house. It's just rooms, windows. It's just like debris on the ground, like newspapers and like newspapers and what looks like wood chips, like like just piles of nonsense and nothing else. The stairs were collapsed. The basement was flooded, so nothing down there. And then upstairs was just like a narrow staircase, and again, just up there is the same thing, except there was less windows, a little darker. There's just a narrow staircase. There's no railing or anything, and it's so low you kind of have to like duck a little bit. There's like a screen door. Yeah, there's a screen door up there for some reason. It's like, why is there a screen door inside? And that was like the only thing. Like it's just not empty. Um, then I remember we She's sitting at like the top of the stairs taking pictures or something, and there's like kind of like a little black hole in the floor, which is weird because these floors are like really thin. Like we can see, right? Because the staircase is like right there. The floor is super thin, and it's like, is there a black hole? And we look at it, and like it's just nothingness, but it should kind of be lit up because there's like a lot of openings downstairs. Like downstairs is like bright, so it's like that's weird. And then um I guess the creepiest it's creepy, but it's kind of funny creepy. We start to smell like uh I don't know, cow or like animal feces. And we look down, there's just something, there's like massive pile of what looks like horse or cow poo upstairs in a narrow staircase that you can't get up. An animal could not get up that. So it's like, where did this come from? And like it's right in front of me. It's like we would have noticed this before, and it wasn't in any of the photos we took. And it's like, what? So that yeah, that was another one where it's like, where did this come from? Because there's a sudden smell, a sudden pile. It was not there before. And we actually have photos where it's like, this was not here before. Oh, okay. No, another super creepy one. This one is not mine, but there was a photo of it. So like an Enderman in Minecraft,
Yes.
that thing, but it's all black and it had like red eyes or something. And they got a photo of it. I don't talk to the person anymore, but they had a photo and I saw it and I was like, what is that? They're at the waterfront of the small town adjacent, this one. And I guess whoever he was with took a photo over their shoulder. And I guess this waterfront, I think there was a lot of battles there. Because there's a historic site not far from that town, like a kilometer out. Where I guess there was like a large scale military battle once. So I don't know how many battles were fought in this town. There is a fort there. So like there was a blockhouse in my town. It never saw any action. I guess this one might have seen a lot. So in the darkness, there's like a very clear blocky shape, and it's like an Enderman. It's all black. It's tall, and it has like these red glowing eyes, but it's blocky. Like it looks like an Enderman, but with red eyes. It's like, how? Like it's too tall. It's all black, red eyes, and like it's not curved like a human. Like it's blocky. It's like, what is that?
Okay, so now I got to ask: are there local legends, urban legends about any sightings in that area or any other places you've been?
I don't think so. That's the weirdest place. That's the weirdest point though, because like that area is a very like upper class waterfront.
Yeah.
It's like a very urban, wealthy for that town area, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's not some creepy abandoned graveyard. It's like a commercial center. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm surprised because if that was an area that experienced some type of turmoil, conflict in the past, here in the United States, we have Gettysburg, which is famous not just for the battle and the historic side of it, but people claim to have a lot of paranormal experiences or see unexplained phenomena in the area. So I'd be curious to see if you probed around a little bit, if you could find maybe your friend wasn't the only one.
You have to look into some of these places.
Now
Actually, that same friend did not have good judgment. I remember they were playing with a Ouija board in a graveyard, and again, I wasn't there, but he said something about like, can you show us a presence, and a door locked or a trunk popped or something, and the car locked or unlocked. It's like, ooh. Actually, okay, yeah. Speaking of Ouija boards, there's another one where there's like super Christian woman I used to work with, and she said she was playing with one when she's a teenager with her husband, her like current husband, I guess, and her, and some other people. And she said like someone got thrown out a window and 2 people went missing, but she seemed a bit, I wasn't sure how it may have been not true.
Right.
She seemed a little intense, so it's like, I'm not sure if that's verifiable. These other ones obviously are, right? Like there's photos of that thing, whatever that was,
Yeah.
at that waterfront. or like personal experience, Um, trying to think if there's any other paranormal ones. I guess the only other two things I can think of is I messed around with Ouija board. I made myself once alone. I was told not to, but at that age, I did what I wanted. And I just remember I had a friend from high school and her friend went to U Ottawa, and I ended up going there as well. So it's like we got much closer just because like we're the only people we knew there for a little bit. So in their dorm, her roommate wheeled out this. I guess their dorm was like it's a 4-person. I guess there's a bunch of frat boys in there, and it kind of showed. Uh, so they were, I guess, cleaning up or moving out stuff that these frat boys left. And one of the things was this super beat up office chair. Like it was leather, but it was so peeled and like it was like really badly damaged. And it was just derelict on the second floor. Anyway, I guess I saw it and stole it. So I stole this like broken office chair and I put it in my dorm, and it was just like a joke. It was like I think we named it Wheelchester. And it's like it's more of a prop than a proper chair. Like it was broken, right? So one day I remember we were playing the Ouija board, and then I'm playing with it by myself, and it starts to be a little angry. And I didn't really believe in this nonsense, so I'm just like, I think I got bored and I'm just like messing with myself. So I'm like, all right, so I just threw it out because I'm like, it's kind of weird to be playing with this anyway. But yeah, I started like swearing stuff. And again, I thought I was just messing with myself because I mean, like, I'm sure you can like trick yourself into playing with one, right?
Yeah.
But after that, any room Wheelchester in, it was like super cold. It was weird. Like if I put him in my room, it was freezing in there. If I put him in the living room, it was freezing in the living room. So it's like, And sometimes I could be chalked up to the window was open and it was winter, but like not always. It was weird. And people started to be like, if anyone was around, they'd like start to be creeped out by it, which they weren't creeped out by it previous. They were after that. Yeah, and even I started to be a little creeped out by it. I was like, okay, this isn't some funny chair I stole. It's actually a bit unnerving. And then remember, like, I turned it's like dark out. I turned a corner into the living room, and there's like this thing that kind of looks like, Groot?
Yeah.
Okay, that all black in the middle of the room. It's not on a wall. It's in the middle of the room. And it kind of like runs at me jagged weird. And just as it would hit me, it kind of disappears. And it's like, okay, that's strange. And I don't know what that was. I can't explain that because it's not on a wall and it's not cast off something. And the way it moved is a natural movement. And this is on the 6th floor. So it couldn't have been cast and again, middle of the room, opaque shape that's like moving jerky. Now, like at the time, I'm not sure if we could like I'm not sure if we can depend on my account of this at that time, honestly, because like I think I was like 19. So it's like at that point in my life, okay, might have been just, I'm not sure if we could count on my recollection at that point.
Yeah.
But still weird, still sticks out to me. Odd. And I remember one time I'm just sitting in this thing and I feel it's like kind of feels like it's sentient or something. I'm just like, all right, no. I've never got that feeling from an object before. So I wheel it downstairs at like 5 a.m., dump it in like the weird trash area, and then go back upstairs. And when I go back to check on it the following day, so that night I throw it out. I swear I hear rolling around in the hallway after I get rid of it. Then I go back to check on it the next day. All the trash is still there. The chair is gone. So it's like, because we don't really have like crazy paranormal. So this is going to have to do, the shadow group thing and the disappearing weird office chair. Yeah. But after I got rid of it, nobody was unnerved anymore. And all the cold spots stopped. So it's like,
Now you have to write this entire story out, but then have it where the character comes back, because their friend came in and they have a dorm party going on and the chair's in their dorm. That's how we have to pitch that one.
So yeah, like honestly though, for that Wheelchester one, not sure how much of that is like real or not though, because like I was 19. I'm like honestly, before I was around 20, it was kind of out of control. So it's like to actually see this group thing. Was I being imaginative? Was it no? I don't know. I was awake. It wasn't a dream. But it's like we can't really count on my eyewitness at that point. And for the cold stuff, again, at that point, the windows were open in the winter a lot because of how I was. So it's like, was the cold spot just that? Was the cold spot that chair? I don't know. Because it's like, yeah, because some of it's like, is that real or not? Like, a lot of the other ones are definitely a real one. It's still that Enderman photo. I haven't thought about that one in a long time. That one's real weird.
Now you're going to find that person, reach out to them, get a copy of it, and analyze it. That's perfect. Well, I mean, you have quite the history to have built up portraits. Is there anything else you'd like anybody to hear? Would you like to pitch your stories? What are you working on here in the future?
Like, what am I working on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're willing to share that with us.
Yeah, it's called Untitled Third Novel right now. Normally they would have a title by now, so this one's really slow. Let me just do a little status update on this. So yeah, it's called Untitled Third Novel, and it's currently 48,110 words. So pretty far along. I think Cheryl's like just under 60,000. This one will be way longer though, because again, cosmic / eldritch horror, you have to do it so specifically. It's like I always say, right? It can't just be big scary monster. It has to be big scary monster that represents like a struggle for the protagonist, or it has to represent an emotion the protagonist feels a lot. Like if the protagonist often feels helpless in their actual life, then this monster has to symbolize helplessness. If they feel like if they're afraid of a certain outcome, then the monster has to like embody that outcome. It can't just be big scary monster. It has to be like psychological horror is a necessity for eldritch horror, I would say.
Yeah, I think 100%. Eldritch horror, cosmic horror, and I talked to somebody else, and I'm probably stepping on that interview, that when you write cosmic horror, a lot of people want to take that because it syncs with us and stays with us for so long that people want to push it into other media. And unfortunately, and we see this all the time with like Cthulhu and things of that nature, they don't translate very well to like visual media, because you can't put in visual media that unsettled psychological horror that the characters experience. It's not the monster that is scary, right? Cthulhu himself is not scary. It's everything that comes with the psychological breakdown of sanity that is frightening.
What is it called? Darkest Dungeon captures that well. It's an eldritch horror game, but it's like, it's not what these things are, it's what they represent,
Yeah.
And that captures it well. Because, it's very much like almost emotional horror, You got to really tap into like what it represents type thing, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to ask, are you a gamer at all?
Sporadically, like sometimes I will not play video games for like weeks or months, and then sometimes I get like obsessed with a certain one, but I would not identify as a gamer. No, not really.
Okay,
Except for right now, I've been obsessed with GTA lately. I got it for like $16, and yeah.
Well, if you ever get the opportunity, on the computer, there's this game called RimWorld. It's this sci-fi. I'm going to say it compared to The Sims, where you don't directly control your survivors on a planet, but there's a modification out there that is, I think they called it Eldritch, and it adds like psychological horror to it, and you have to worry about people going insane from the things that they see in the game. And I think that's probably the closest media-wise that's not, a tabletop game or just straight book that captures, that eldritch horror, that cult takeover of mentality. So if you ever get a chance, even if you just watch a couple of YouTube videos of it, it's pretty interesting because you can't predict the outcome, how everybody is going to react to it.
What's it called again?
The game itself is called RimWorld, and then there's a modification out there that's free. And you'll just type in like Eldritch if you have Steam, something like that. It's a pretty fun experience. I like to modify my games a lot, so don't get a game that much anymore with a daughter though.
So Grimworld, okay. So does it have like a sanity meter?
When you download the modification to it, they do have a sanity meter, but you can't see it.
Okay.
The way you find out, because you can read like what your characters are going through socially, you'll see other characters saying, this character is kind of acting weird, or this character has a belief that I don't agree with anymore, and it slowly becomes unhinged. And they can do things like they can snap and they murder one of their friends and things of that nature. The base game RimWorld is complex enough by itself.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of mods out there, so it's very easy to lose yourself in just experiencing the story that naturally develops. I always said, it'd be great to just like write a story off like the weird interactions there, but because there's no arc, it'd be very hard to. You might as well just write a story similar to that.
Yeah.
I digress. Took you completely off track here.
Well, actually, on sanity meters, Darkest Dungeon has that as well, except it's like visible. And there's one where you play as a necromancer. I think it's called Narrated. It also has a sanity meter, but on the enemies because the undead can't go insane.
Right. Yeah. There's a bunch of indie games out there that play with that. I think, let's say about 5-6 years ago, the horror games where all you had to do is like run from the entity became very popular. And there's a couple, because we're talking about paranormal, there's a couple paranormal ones out there that are great. There's one, I can't remember what it's called now for the life of me, because the second I have the camera on, I can't remember anything. But you play in doing autopsies as a mortician, and you have to figure out a ghost that's trying to possess all the bodies that are in there. And if you make the wrong decision, the ghost wins. And there's scenes where you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going insane or if this is a paranormal experience. And it's fun just watching people play that game. But I'll have to say, I'm not going to be able to let my wife watch this because she's super creeped out by Ouija boards. I personally don't put any emphasis behind them, but I keep telling her I'm going to buy my daughter one, and then when she throws it out, I'm going to have the same one again so it comes back in the house just to freak them out. But she'll never be able to watch them either. She's gonna have to avoid this episode because she's gonna be like, "See, I told you he had a Ouija board experience. He doesn't believe it, and it happened to him." I'm never gonna hear the end of it. But
yeah, despite possible unverifiable issues that may have arisen. I don't really believe in them now.
Yeah, 19 to 20, I'm going to say 22 is a hard time for a lot of young people. I'm just going to leave it at that. So
I got it together after around 2020. Yeah, August of being 20.
Okay, there we go. We have a specific date from Mr. Parks here. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for reading it. I'm going to include all the links here. I'm going to include the link to all your work as well, so that anybody watching or listening to this, they are going to be down below. And again, I'm Sean Fitzgerald with Birds with Words. And if I don't see you guys soon, stay